Hey guys, it's your own Phoenix here with Vinland Saga Chapter 2. So Chapter 2 picks up where we left off with Askeladd and his mercenaries returning home from the siege, announcing that they have survived another year, and now that winter is coming, they are free to stay home with their families. And we learned that their home is on the Jutland Peninsula in Denmark, and they serve under a feudal lord named Gorm, who happens to be Askeladd's uncle. For those of you who don't know, a feudal lord is essentially a noble who owns land. As they land, we learn that Askeladd is essentially a celebrity of sorts. He's loved by the women and admired by the men of their village who hope to one day set sail as part of his crew and join the raids. Meanwhile, Askeladd is in what appears to be Gorm's quarters, essentially going over the cost of housing and feeding Askeladd and his men. And Gorm has a very Ebenezer Scrooge mentality, obsessing over money and the cost of the village. But Askeladd proclaims he would be given more than enough money for his troubles, which changes his mood, and he announces that they must celebrate and have a feast essentially. And he sends one of his slaves, a girl named Hordaland, to bring wine. And Hordaland is explained to be the daughter of a dethroned noble or a member of a noble's bloodline who had lost in a previous war, but that not much else is really known. But Gorm treats her like a slave all the same, stating that due to her upbringing, she's a bad slave. I guess because she still thinks like a noble and is bad at taking directions. But either way, before she could return with the wine, we see Thorfinn approaching for his long-awaited duel, which Askeladd asks Gorm to bear witness to. And it becomes a show of sorts for the villagers, with Gorm announcing that they are dueling over the death of Thorfinn's father, and that victory will only be claimed upon retreat, incapacitation, or death of the opponent. And immediately at the start, Thorfinn attacks Askeladd with a blitz of slashes, only for Askeladd to easily block and then counters attacks, all while trying to get inside Thorfinn's head by discrediting the fact that he killed his father to begin with, saying that he doesn't even remember him. And it's here that we learn that Askeladd took Thorfinn hostage as a child during the fight with his father Thors, and Thors gave up his life for the safety of his son. But the memory of this was enough to make Thorfinn rage and lose his composure, allowing Askeladd to get the upper hand, throwing Thorfinn to the ground and dislocating his shoulder out of place, ending the duel immediately. And we also see that Askeladd really, it seems like this whole situation was just child's play, because he leaves immediately to go basically party and eat with the rest of his men. After this, we see that Thorfinn is sitting out on the ship in the middle of the snow while the rest of the mercenaries are in the tavern eating and drinking, because apparently he sulks on the ship every time he challenges and loses to Askeladd, this just being one of the many attempts to defeat him, as well as the ship itself belonging to his father Thors. Meanwhile, Askeladd is relaxing in the tavern eating his meal, and he's approached by one of the villagers who asks why does he keep Thorfinn around if he's so dangerous, because he could just kill him in his sleep. But Askeladd knows that he won't actually do that, because to him that would be costing him his revenge, and as a warrior and as being a person with pride and everything and his past, he would rather die than kill Askeladd in an unfair fight. And it's also at this time that we see how Gorm treats Hordaland, and he basically just beats her and berates her a lot, and she at this point had dropped a plate spilling some food, and him being a money-hungry person cares more about the cost of the food and everything. And Askeladd says something that is actually really interesting. He says that it's funny to see a man enslaved by gold try to be the master of a person as a slave. So essentially he's saying that, he says everybody is a slave to something, so it's just really weird to see a person who's slave to money be mad at a human being for being a bad slave when he itself is not a master to his own world or to his own way of life. And that's pretty much the last that we see of Askeladd for the chapter. And the chapter really closes out with Thorfinn being on the boat, seeing a vision of his father, who doesn't really want him to seek vengeance, but he knows that telling him this won't really do any good, because he must find his own path as a warrior. But suddenly he snapped out of this, because Hordaland was sent to bring him food, and she believed that he was a slave like her, but Thorfinn announces that he's basically nothing like her, and that if he were her, he would kill Gorm and he would just leave and run away and kill anybody who would follow them. But she doesn't really have anywhere to go, and she's saying, if she were to run, because she's not the type of person to kill anyone, if she was to run, where would she go really? There's no place that she knows of that doesn't have war or slavers. And this causes Thorfinn to have a flashback of sorts to when he's a kid, and he's being talked to by what I can only imagine is the chief of his old village, possibly a grandfather, but I think it's the chief, who says that He had once found a new world of peace and prosperity, and he built a home there and proclaimed it Vinland, which is basically North America when the Vikings originally discovered it around 1000 AD. Which, side note, is kind of funny because Christopher Columbus is credited with the discovery of America, but he never actually set foot in North America. He actually landed in the Caribbean almost 500 years after the Vikings, and the Vikings actually did land in North America, but it's not really talked about as much as Christopher Columbus. But that's enough history for now. This was Vinland Saga Chapter 2. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. If so, leave a like and subscribe. And I'd love to hear what you thought about it in the comments. Eternal Phoenix, signing out.